Today's story is the murders in the Rue Morgue. 1840. I was in Paris when I first met the most interesting and astonishing person I have ever known. His name was Dupin, and we first met in an old bookstore, both looking for a very particular book. Later, we saw each other in a very particular bookstore, and something inside me was extremely curious for this individual, so we started talking. Surprisingly, we had a very particular connection between us. We enjoyed each other's company, we were like brothers, and it felt like we have known each other for a lifetime. Soon, he moved with me and we spent the days reading, writing, talking, or just enjoying our company. Nevertheless, we never felt an attraction for each other or something like that. I soon realized Dupin was special. He had a reasoning power. He could see people's souls. One evening, he surprised me by telling me a thing I had thought only I could possibly know. One night, we were walking down the street, but neither of us was talking. Suddenly, he agreed with one of my thoughts. How was it possible for him to read my mind? I asked him how was that even possible, and he started narrating all my thoughts. He had learned to read my body language and deduce my unspoken thoughts. I was astonished. One morning, Dupin and I read on a newspaper about a terrible murder in the Rue Morgue. An old woman and her daughter, living alone in an old house, had been killed in the middle of the night. All the witnesses agreed in one thing. There were two voices. One said in French, "My God," and the other one was unrecognizable. None could recognize what language was spoken. It was a very strange voice. It was almost unrecognizable. In the moment we finished reading the newspaper, I knew Dupin had something in mind. He was going to solve the mystery, and I would definitely help him to find a logic answer to this horrible scene.
Dupin was convinced that there must be an answer for the mystery. So we went to the house, and as in the newspaper said, everything was upside down. There were chairs and tables all broken, and there was blood all over the house. Then Dupin began looking the dead bodies of Mrs. L'Espanache and her daughter. He told me, "This is a complicated mystery, but for the police." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Yes, it is obvious that the killer is not a human. Just look. Mrs. L'Espanache ended up without head, and it is impossible that a human did that with a pair of little hands." I took the measures of the marks of Mrs. L'Espanache's neck, and we got into a conclusion that the killer must be a monster, and that maybe the recognizable voice was from the one who can create a monster, like a scientist. It is not a crazy idea. Actually, across the road, there is a lab we can go and ask, I said. We went to the lab and knocked at the door 3 times. After waiting 5 minutes, a tall with a white coat, glasses man opened the door, and the first thing he said was, "I am so sorry, he didn't mean to." "Who didn't mean what?" Dupin asked. "My dog, or well, my monster, the monster I created, did what you have read on the newspaper you had in your left hand," the man replied.
The scientist began to cry and told us how he created the monster. He told us that it was once a simple dog, but he once left a mix with acids and chemical reactions on a table and went to sleep. So the dog drank the mix and turned into a monster. When the dog turned into a monster, it was out of control and escaped. The scientists followed the monster, and when arrived, the monster has already killed Mrs. L'Espanache and her daughter. The monster has to pay for what he has done, I say. "Please don't. I'm working on an antidote to cure my dog," the man answered. "Okay, let us help you, but then you will have to pay." "Someone has to," Dupin said. "Yes, mister, you are right," the man said with tears on his eyes. Dupin and I helped the scientist with the antidote. We put the same acids and then put a little of ice. The water of the ice kind of returned the transformation. and with a little bit of salt, the dog returned his usual form. "Thank you, mates," the man said. "You are welcome." "But what now?" I said. "The scientist spent 2 years in jail while we took care of the dog. Poor man, but someone do have to pay. If he just don't leave the dog near the mix, none of this have happened."
The end!